I was driving back from my late-night shift, the road cutting through endless miles of desolate countryside. The headlights carved a narrow tunnel of light through the darkness, while the radio played static, the signal lost in the emptiness of the landscape. It was past midnight, and the silence outside was so thick it pressed against the car windows. Then, a sudden flash, brighter than daylight, exploded in the sky. My heart pounded as I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop on the deserted highway. Above me, something hovered, massive, silent, pulsating with an eerie blue glow. At first, I thought it was a plane, maybe a military test, but there was something unnatural about the way it moved. Jerky, too precise, like it was scanning the earth below. Then, without warning, my car shut down. The engine, the lights, even my phone, dead. I sat frozen, gripping the wheel as a beam of light shot down from the craft, illuminating the road in front of me. The air grew heavy, and an unbearable pressure built in my ears. Then I saw it, a figure stepping into the light. It was tall, impossibly thin, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered like liquid metal under the glow. Its head was smooth and featureless except for two enormous, inky black eyes that seemed to drink in the light. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding toward my car. My breath caught in my throat as my body refused to obey me. I wanted to run, to scream, but my limbs were paralyzed. The air inside the car turned icy, and I felt something alien invade my thoughts, rifling through my mind like flipping through pages of a book. Then I heard it, not with my ears, but inside my head. A voice, hollow and inhuman, whispering in a language I didn't understand. It wasn't speaking to me, it was examining me. My memories flickered. My childhood home, my mother's face, my worst fears, each one exposed and dissected. I could feel it peeling back the layers of my consciousness, searching for something. The sheer violation made my stomach churn. The creature's fingers twitched, and suddenly I was wrenched from my seat, lifted into the air as if gravity had lost its hold on me. My body convulsed as pain ignited through my skull, a searing fire digging into my mind. The landscape twisted around me, and for a brief moment I was the creature. I saw the world through its black, endless eyes, felt its hunger for knowledge, its cold detachment toward my suffering. Just as quickly as it had begun, it ended. I collapsed onto the pavement, gasping, my vision swimming. The figure stood above me, observing. Then, without a sound, it turned and drifted back toward the ship. The beam of light retracted, and in a blink, the craft shot upward, vanishing into the night sky. I lay there, trembling, the air thick with the scent of ozone and something else, something unnatural. I staggered to my feet, barely able to stand. My car roared back to life as if nothing had happened. The clock on the dashboard blinked erratically, 3:13 a.m. But I knew that couldn't be right. It had only been a few minutes, yet the night had stretched beyond my understanding. I checked my phone, the date. It was the next day. I had lost 6 hours. I never spoke about what happened that night, but I know they took something from me, something I can't name. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear the whispers. And deep in the darkest part of my mind, I feel them watching, waiting. I should have never taken that road. That's what I keep telling myself. But it was late, and I just wanted to get home. The pine barrens in New Jersey stretched endlessly on either side of the narrow road, their skeletal trees clawing at the night sky. My gas gauge was dipping dangerously close to empty, and my phone had lost signal miles ago. The only sound was the low hum of my tires against the cracked asphalt. Then, the world around me changed. The engine sputtered once. The headlights flickered. And then, total darkness. I barely had time to react before something massive loomed ahead. A towering shadow stood in the middle of the road, backlit by an unnatural glow. I slammed the brakes, the tires skidding over the loose gravel. My heart pounded in my chest as I squinted through the windshield. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything I had ever seen before. Its elongated form shifted unnaturally, like it was struggling to exist in this world. My stomach churned with a deep primal fear. Then, the lights returned, but the road in front of me was empty. The shadow was gone. I let out a shaky breath, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe the exhaustion was messing with my mind. I reached for my phone, but my fingers froze midair. The reflection in the screen wasn't just my own. Something was behind me. The air inside the car grew heavy, pressing against my chest like a physical force. A whisper, low, distorted, and impossible to locate, crawled into my ears. My vision blurred, and a sharp ringing filled my skull. I turned slowly, my movements sluggish like I was trapped underwater. And there it was. Its skin was smooth and pale, almost translucent under the dim light. Its eyes, two endless voids, reflected no light, only hunger. Its limbs were too long, its fingers tapering into needle-like points that twitched with unnatural precision. The whispering grew louder, filling my head with fragmented words I couldn't understand. Then, a sudden pressure, sharp, invasive, pierced my thoughts. My mind wasn't my own anymore. I saw images flashing too fast to comprehend. Planets I didn't recognize. Landscapes twisted and alien. Things that didn't belong in the realm of human understanding. It was showing me something. Or worse, it was searching for something inside me. My body convulsed as a wave of nausea overtook me. The car door flung open on its own, and before I could react, I was pulled outside by an invisible force. My feet barely touched the ground before I was lifted upward, weightless, helpless. The treetops blurred past me as I ascended. The night. Sky opened up, and in its center a ship hovered, massive, silent, waiting. Then, blackness. When I woke up, I was lying in the middle of the road, my car still running, headlights cutting through the fog. My head throbbed, my body sore like I had been ripped apart and stitched back together. I checked the time, 4:07 a.m. But the last thing I remembered was 10:43 p.m. I had lost 5 hours. I never spoke about that night. But I know I didn't imagine it, because every now and then when the world is quiet, I still hear the whispers.
I grew up in a quiet part of Oregon, where the forest stretched endlessly behind my house. Thick, towering pines swallowed the sunlight, and at night, the world outside turned into an abyss of shadows. My parents always told me not to wander too far after dark. The woods change at night, my father used to say. I never believed him, until the night something found me. It was late, past midnight, and I had just stepped outside for some fresh air. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, and the distant hoot of an owl echoed through the trees. Then something changed. The forest, which was always alive with sounds of insects and rustling leaves, went silent. A heavy, suffocating quiet settled over everything, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then I saw it. A dim bluish light flickered between the trees, moving unnaturally, like it wasn't bound by the laws of this world. My body tensed as a cold wave of fear rolled over me. But I couldn't look away. The glow pulsed, growing brighter, and then it stepped forward. The figure was wrong. It was tall but impossibly thin, its limbs too long, its body shifting like liquid shadow. Its head was smooth and elongated, with two enormous pitch-black eyes that reflected no light. It didn't walk. It glided, moving with an unsettling grace. My breath caught in my throat as a pressure built inside my skull. A voice, if I could even call it that, slithered into my mind. It wasn't sound. It was thought, raw and intrusive. The words weren't in English, weren't in any language. I knew, but somehow I understood. It was studying me, peeling back my memories, my fears, my thoughts. I fell to my knees, my vision blurring as my mind split open to something I wasn't meant to comprehend. I tried to scream, but no sound came. Out. My body wasn't mine anymore. My arms twitched, lifted against my will. The creature's fingers flexed slightly, and in that moment, I felt like I was dangling over the edge of a vast, endless void. I saw things, planets devoured by darkness, civilizations erased from time, knowledge that no human should ever hold. Then it released me. I collapsed into the dirt, gasping, my hands shaking violently. The thing loomed over me for a moment longer, and then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished into the night. The blue glow faded, and the sounds of the forest returned in an instant, like nothing had ever happened. But something had happened, and even now when I walk near the tree line, I feel it. Camping was supposed to be fun. That's what we told ourselves. Me, my brother Jason, and our two friends, Mark and Ethan, had set up camp deep in the forests of Montana, miles away from the nearest town. The air was crisp, the fire crackled, and the sky above was a sea of stars. It was the perfect weekend getaway, until everything went wrong. It started with the lights. At first, we thought it was lightning. Quick flashes in the distance, deep, beyond the trees. But there was no thunder. The lights weren't white or yellow like normal lightning either. They were blue, pulsing, moving. Jason joked about aliens, but there was something off about the way the air felt. Thick, electric, charged with an invisible tension. Then the noises began. Low droning hums like the sound of a distant engine, but layered, vibrating deep inside our bones. Mark grabbed his flashlight and aimed it toward the trees. "Probably just a plane or something," he muttered. But no plane flies that low. And certainly not without sound. Then all at once the fire died. 1 second it was burning bright, the next it was gone. Just a pile of cold ash, like it had been snuffed out in an instant. Darkness swallowed the campsite and the air grew still. That's when we saw it. A figure stood just beyond the tree line, motionless. It was tall, unnaturally tall, its limbs stretched thin, its head elongated. Its skin looked smooth, almost metallic under the faint starlight. But it was the eyes that froze me. Two black voids, endless, empty, and yet aware, watching, studying. Ethan whispered, "Do you see that?" But before anyone could answer, the light returned. This time, above us. A beam of bluish-white radiance cut through the trees, casting everything in an eerie glow. My body went weightless. A sharp, piercing sound drilled into my skull, and suddenly, I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was somewhere else. The ground beneath me wasn't dirt. It was cold, smooth, unnatural. A blinding white light bathed everything, making it impossible to see the edges of the room. I couldn't move. My body wasn't mine anymore. Shapes moved in the periphery of my vision, tall, slender, shifting like shadows. Then, a voice, not spoken but placed inside my head. "You are not ready." Then darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was back at the campsite, lying on the cold dirt. My head throbbed. Jason, Mark, and Ethan were unconscious beside me. The fire was burning again, as if nothing had happened. But when I checked my phone, I realized something was wrong. Hours had passed. None of us remember leaving. None of us remember how we got back. But we all remember the eyes. And now, sometimes, late at night, I feel them watching. If you enjoyed these real horror stories and want more chilling tales, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep bringing you the scariest stories from around the world. And if you've ever had a terrifying experience, share it in the comments. We'd love to hear it if you dare.